Good morning, kids. This is Miss Cindy, and I'm doing the Sunday School via YouTube this morning. So I hope you're all doing well, and hopefully I'll see you at church or next week when we do it in person again. And today we're going to talk about how God helps us keep things together. So I'm going to give you an example of one really recently where I really depended on God to keep it together. So my family, my daughter and grandchildren, we went to Disney World. It was a trip that we had wanted to do forever and ever, and we were finally doing it. And we were having a great time. And my husband went, but he's not as much of an amusement park kind of person or a morning person. So we made arrangements for him to drop us off in the morning. We would do our morning stuff. He would go back to the room, the hotel, and do what he needs to do to keep himself together to enjoy the afternoon. And then he would drive back and we would meet up and do the afternoon and evening things. And so we had done that and it had been successful. The first day, the second day, we did it again. And we were going to stay real late for fireworks and all the exciting things in the evening. And so we were sitting down, getting our stuff together, what we were going to do next. And we were trying to open a package or something that we had just gotten. And someone said, well, use a key. So my husband put his hand in his pocket to pull out the keys to the rental car had driven. And there were no keys. And he told us, I don't have the keys. And so we all looked in our pockets and our pocketbooks and our backpacks to see if he had given it to us. And none of us had it. So that was a moment I was not going to keep it together if I thought about it. How were we going to get all of us back to our hotel? What were we going to do? All these questions were going through my mind. And my initial reaction was to start yelling at my poor husband. Why could you do such a silly thing? Where are the keys? What's wrong with you? But would that have helped anybody? Would that have helped us find the keys? Would that have found us a way to get home? No. So I started praying. And first, when I get like that, I say the Lord's Prayer. Because that gets me in the mood of breathing deep and calming myself and saying someone else can help with this and be in control, help me control my emotions. So I was saying the Lord's Prayer and saying, God will get us where we need to go. We have resources. There's things, if I don't let my emotions cloud, my brain and all of us together will figure something out. So we were talking through it, and in the back of my mind, I'm still talking to God of keeping me together. Don't let me yell at poor Don because it's not his fault that something went wrong. So he ran back to the car. No, it wasn't there. And then he thought, oh, when I come through the gates, they make me take everything out of my pockets, kind of like when you go to the airport, you have to go through a metal detector. And he was pretty sure he had the keys then. He had to take them out of the pocket. So he went to the guard back where they were. And he's like, no, I don't have it. But you can go to customer service. And so he did go to customer service and he's explaining to the poor guy. And he's like, well, let me go look. And sure enough, he came back and there was a key fob, that little thing. And Don was so joyful and he came back to us and showed us that we had the key and everything was okay. And at that moment, I said a prayer of thanks to God, not only for finding the keys and getting us all, but for keeping me together and keeping me so that I wasn't letting my emotions run wild and hurt somebody's feelings like Don's, or being out of control and not being a good person and a supportive person for someone who did something, just forgetful, not intentionally mean or trying to hurt anything or disrupt our evening. It just happened. And so I was very thankful for God to keep me together. So that's just an example of God keeping us together and how we can lean on him to hold our emotions together. Now, there's another way of God keeping us together, and sometimes we have things that we want to do, but we don't do it consistently, or we don't do it the way we want to. We want to improve ourselves. And but we don't remember. You know, life gets busy. We have school, we have homework, we want to play with our friends, we have our parents, grandparents, things that we want to do, go to Disney World. So sometimes some very smart people say if you write things down, it helps ingrain in your brain the things that you want to do or you want to remember. And so we're going to write some things down of what I want to do better or what I want to do more of to be a good person. So the first one is I want to give more to charities, to people who don't have as much as I do, a house over my head, great friends like you guys, everything. They're in need, so I can give them money. So I'm going to write, give money to the poor. And you can do this if you want, or you can come up with your own. But I just took a piece of paper and kind of divided it up into sections. So that's my first one. The second one, which I'm really bad at, this is something I shouldn't do so much, and that's gossip. You know, oh, did you see? Did you hear? Did you, and spread stuff that maybe I don't really know is the truth or don't. I'm not doing it for good information exchange like this is. I'm just gossiping. So don't gossip. Okay, that's my second one. And you might have a different one. That's okay. So this one you can't really do, but it's, for me, be a great mom. And even though my kids are out of the house and I have grandkids that are almost out of high school, but I still can be supportive. I can still be there for my children. If they have a really good day, I can celebrate with them. If they don't have such a great day, I can support them. And one of the things that I need to do, especially after COVID, is to reach out to people more. I got really used to being in my isolation, staying at home. And so I need to, call my daughters or, stop by their house or call them and see if we can get together. And Disney World was kind of one of those things. So I'm going to say a better mom, because we can always improve ourselves. So you could say be a better daughter, be a better son. That might mean cleaning your room without being asked, doing your homework without mom having to say, is your homework done? You could bring it to her and say, Mom, I did my homework. Talk about a relief for mom. Okay, another thing is be a great wife. Now again, you can't quite do this, but for me, that example of not yelling at my husband because he lost the key, but breathing deep and relying on God to keep me together so that Don could think about what was going on when he last saw the key and find it. So be a great wife. Maybe you want to be a great student for your teacher. Maybe you want to be a great friend for your other friends. And then the last thing I'm going to put down is pray every morning. And sometimes that can be really hard to do. You got to get up, you got to get dressed, you got to get your teeth brushed, you got to get your breakfast. And sometimes it's just easy to get on with our day and forget to check in with God and say to him, thank you for everything you gave me. My nice soft bed, my nice warm blankets, my mom and dad, my friends, all those things that we have on this earth. The sun, maybe snow, because it's a Saturday, we want to play in the snow. So we have those things. So you could write your own, or you could use some of these, or you could ask, mom and dad what they would like from you to be. Just think of some things and put them on these little slips of paper. Some things keep us from doing these things, and some of them are in our control and some of them are not. But we can call these spiritual storms. Like, remember the other day when the wind was blowing so hard you could hear it and the trees were swaying and trucks were blowing over. Sometimes inside, that's what our spiritual or what we're feeling inside is a storm. Like I described before, maybe I've forgotten to do what I want to do, or I get wrapped up and I start gossiping to my friends. Something happens in my spiritual storm, comes out, and I don't do these things that I want to do. So what was that like? So all the papers go everywhere. They're not in order. They're upside down. They're not right. And what do? Well, we got to put them back in order. And we got to get them together. Back together. Well, what kind of things can help us keep our paper together? Well, we have these things called paper clips. Have you used a paper clip? Yeah. It's kind of a unique bendy thing, right? And you can open it up a little bit by pressing with your thumb. And you slip it over the paper. And look, it's together. We can blow on it. And maybe it blows around. But it doesn't get out of order. And it doesn't fly around the room. It stays together. So God is our paperclip. He can keep us together. Just like at Disney World, when I had that spiritual storm just raging, leaning on him, having him paperclip me, got me through the storm. And we had the rest of the night and beautiful fireworks, and it all worked out superbly because I kept it together and I didn't yell at my husband, and he could think about what to do to find the answer and find that key. So I want you to think about this part of the Bible in the book called Deuteronomy, and I'm going to read it to you. Hold on. God says, "Be strong and courageous. I will never desert you, nor forsake you." So forsake means forget about you. He'll always be there. And he was for me. And that's just one example. He's been there for me a lot. And then there's another saying or another part of the Bible that, like our readings at church, and this is from Matthew, which is the New Testament, and it says Jesus is on the boat with his disciples, and this furious storm comes up on the lake where they're in this boat, and it's rocking the boat, and it's just having terrible havoc. And we've talked about this story before, I remember. And Jesus was in the bottom of the boat sleeping, and they all woke up and said, "Oh, help us, help us." And Jesus is like, "Why are you worrying? God will take care of it. It'll be okay. Don't worry." And he calmed the storm, and the boat made it safely to the shore, and the disciples got off. And then there's one more, and it's called a psalm. And we say these also. Usually Richard is singing it in church, and we do a response. But a psalm is like a poem that was written and put in there. So the psalm says, "The Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble." So here's our paper clips. And he's our stronghold. He's our clip to keep us together. Okay, we're going to conclude with a prayer. Okay. Father, thank you for being a stronghold. You keep our lives together and running more smoothly while we're here on earth. Thanks for your strength. And oh yes, help us to become the things we wrote down today, with you holding us daily. Amen. So kids, we're going to do the craft part. And the craft part goes along with God keeping us together. And those things that we want to do to improve ourselves or become better Christians. And one way that we learn to remember them is to write them down on our pieces of paper and have them here. But we can't always walk around with our papers. Sometimes things, get a little hard to carry around with you and look at them all the time. So people have multiple ways of remembering things. So one of them is, it was big when people were smoking and they were trying to quit. And they would put a rubber band around their wrist. And whenever they got the urge to have a cigarette, or maybe they're trying to diet and they want a piece of candy and they're trying to stop eating candy, or having something that's high calories and not good for them, they would snap their wrist to get their mind off of that negative thing that they didn't want to do. So they would just enough to remind them and to give them a negative feeling when they had those thoughts of things that weren't good. So that's one way to kind of remember. Some people, you might have seen, they tie a ribbon or a piece of thread or something around their finger, and that's to remind them. So when they tie it on their finger, they say, now remember, this is to pick up dog food before I go home tonight, or to walk the dog, or to tell my wife something, or to tell my parents something. But it's when you see it, then your mind triggers, I'm supposed to remember to do something. Take the trash out on Monday mornings. Something like that. So to incorporate what these 5 things that we wrote down into something that we can remember how and wear it with us, but not be negative like the rubber band snapping us, but something positive. So the first way, we're going to make bracelets to remind us. So the first one is to get several paper clips. Now we wrote down 5 things, so I got 5 different types of paper clips, and then my wrist is too big, so I had to get a 7th one or 6th one to make it go around my wrist. So you might want to check that out before you finish your project, or try to get it together. So for each thing, so let's see what we started with. I didn't put them back in order. So here we go. First I wrote down was give more money to the poor. So that's this kind of gold color one. Then the second one was to be a better mom. So I have this pink one. So you kind of loop it around until they're hooked together. See that? Then the next one was be a great wife. So that's the silver one. And I'll remember that one. There we go. And then the next one, don't be a gossip. And that's this big one, because I know I have that problem with that one. And then the last one is pray every morning. And that's another big one, so that I can remember to pray, not to gossip. And then I have one more to make it go around my wrist and over my hand. So I looped that through. You could come up with a 6th one to remember if you wanted to go along with it. And then you loop it together. Whoop, I unlooped it. Let's try that again. Here we go. And then you can wear it. And during the day, you can go through and say, okay, that one is remember to pray in the morning. This one is remember to be a great wife. This one was not to gossip. This was to pray for the poor or give the poor money. This one was to be a better mom. And you can go through them, right? So that way we can be our own kind of reminder of paper clips of the things we want to do better. Okay. The next one is we can, if we don't have paper clips, that's not the most comfortable thing to wear, we can do ribbons. And it's kind of like making a chain for a Christmas tree, kind of. So you make a loop, and you could do, you know, a slip knot if you want, round, and then pull that through, and then that makes it big or small. And then you put another one through that. And tie it to get the ends together. Simple knot. And I picked one for each different color so that the same thing, I could remember that I had 5 different things to remember to do. I got 4. Yep. And 1 more. There we go. And then we tie it to the first one. Sorry, I'm not talking very much, am I? All right. Guess I'm trying to concentrate to make my knots. There we go. So now we have a colorful bracelet that we can slip on. And remember to give money to the poor, to be a better mom, to be a great wife, eek, not to gossip, and to pray every morning. So we have that. Okay. And then one other one, and you can do this with rubber bands, or I have hair ties. So you have 2 hair ties, and you wrap one around the other, and you pull it through. So they're knotted together like that. And then you add another one, fold it in half, and pull it through. Okay. And one more. And one more. Okay, and then we have to tie this last one together. Or slip it all the way through. I think that'll work. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, I'm just going to take a little piece of string and my scissors. Good thing I'm doing this in my craft room, so I always have stuff together. And just put a little piece of string on those 2. And tie my knot. And tie another knot so it's together. And now I have my bracelet to remind me of the 5 things I want to do. All right? Pray every morning. Don't gossip. Be a great wife. Be a great mom. Give to the poor. Right? Is that what I got? Don't gossip. Be a great wife. Be a great mom. Give to the poor. And there we have another way. So you can make yourself different bracelets to remind us to do what we want to do every day to become a better Christian. Okay, kids. See you next week.